Okay, so in order to graph nonlinear systems, we need to go ahead and look at how we graph quadratic systems. So you noticed in the warm-up, we did graphing linear systems. So some of the key things to remember from there is we looked at how we need to graph these. So do we graph these with a solid line or a dotted line? So you're going to see in this one right here, because this is just less than, we know we're going to be graphing this with a dashed line. And because this is y is less than, we're going to be shading the area underneath our graph. Now, remember, a quadratic equation is going to be a parabola. So we're going to want to make sure that our area under our parabola is going to be the one that we're graphing. You'll notice that our a value is negative, so our parabola is going to be opening down. So when we shade under, it's going to be this area underneath our parabola. So these are just a couple things to notice before you even graph it. Notice what area, what direction our parabola is going to be opening, what area we're going to be graphing by looking at the sign, and what type of line you're going to be graphing with, dotted or dashed or solid line. So now, in order to graph these, you don't need to use an XY table and go through the process of finding all the points. You can either, if you're doing these problems at home, use a graphing calculator, or one of the best ways to do this is to just look at Desmos. So again, we've got negative x squared minus 2x minus 1. So I'm going to go click on Desmos. I've typed in the same equation, negative x squared minus 2x minus 1. And because we're doing a dashed line, you would just do this as a dashed line here for your parabola. And the area that we're graphing is just under this parabola. Okay? So this gives you a good idea. You can just go ahead and plot these points here to get your parabola. And if we go back to our equation, we look and we've got the same graph plotted here, but with dashed lines. And because the inequality symbol is less than, we're going to go ahead and to test our point, we can go ahead and, in order to make sure that we picked a right area to graph, we can pick a point from the area we're going to shade. So let's use this point, for example, 0, negative 3. Now remember, this is just to test and make sure that we're looking at the right region. Again, our solution area is an entire region. So since we decided that this whole area underneath our parabola is the correct region, we're going to pick this point to plug it in and see if it works. So if we take our original equation and plug in negative 3 for y and 0 for x, we end up with a statement that negative 3 is less than 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 1. We get negative 3 is less than negative 1, which is a true statement, which means that this is a solution of the inequality, and we're going to go ahead and shade the whole region. So pretty simple here. Couple things to remember. Just use Desmos or a graphing calculator to graph your parabolas or your quadratics. There's no need to take all the time of graphing this by hand. So I showed you how you can use Desmos to do it. The other option is using a graphing calculator if you had it. The next important thing is making sure to look at your inequality symbol to see if it's going to be a dashed line or a solid line. Also, looking at it to make sure you're looking at the proper region. Less than means inside the parabola in this case. Greater than would be this area outside of here. Always testing by picking a point inside your shaded area and plugging that point inside your original inequality to make sure it works.